Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir Al-Quran with the Jews of the Quran is spares. He was reading and hopefully inshallah, of course, this is the last session about Surah Al-Jathiyah. We will read from verse 30 to 37, and they include Imam Ghazali's second selection, the verses 33 to 35. We shall read inshallah and translate and comment on the themes. أعوذ بالله السميع من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فأما الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيدخلهم ربهم في رحمته فأما الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيدخلهم ربهم في رحمته ذلك هو الفوز المبين. As for those who believed and did good, their Lord will admit them into His mercy. That is truly the absolute triumph. Belief is important, but it should always be followed by good deeds. Their hearts are at peace with their belief. They believe in, of course, the cornerstone is the belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The testimony, we talk always about two testimonies. Once we declare the belief in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger of God, it always includes belief in all the messengers that came before him. No one, of course, after him. He's the seal of the prophets. We believe in all we have 25 names of prophets in the Quran, but Quran also mentions that there are other prophets, other stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention. The Quran is not a book of the history of the prophets, but it does mention stories there, and you'll not find genealogies like in the Old Testament, for example. You'll not find stories. There are shared stories, but always the Quranic story has the upper hand. Quran is considered, by virtue of the Quran itself, Muhaymin, guardian over the original, the past messages. Meaning that if we have any differences, the Quran has the upper hand. So, for example, whenever the Old Testament attributes grave sins to the prophets, we have absolutely no way of accepting this. In fact, it's immediate rejection. The prophets are infallible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects them. The story of Noah, the story of Lut alayhi salam, Lot having incest with his daughters, absolutely unacceptable and also illogical. His people have just been punished for their sin, and it's not really lack of generosity, it is homosexuality. This is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Old Testament. This is also the story in the Quran without mentioning the names Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Quran is very clear why they have been hit with that punishment. So it's impossible so that they would leave their place. And with part of his family, his wife was doomed. And my understanding is that she approved what they were doing. At any rate, we don't have such a story in the Quran that he would have incest with his daughters. And that's impossible to take place for many reasons. We believe in all the previous messages. The Quran mentions the Torah, always the original Torah. Mentions the Zabur, Book of Psalms, always the original. And mentions the Injil in the singular, the Gospel, not Gospels, the original. And I have covered here and there some of the things that would show that these books suffered from the vagaries of transmission, altered, changed, the things that have been definitely inserted by the authors, like describing how Prophet Moses passed away, which cannot be revealed to him, of course. That's impossible. So belief, and always, and your belief is in your heart, it's something internal. The action, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, they did good, they do good things. That's really an external thing that is done by your limbs, and it should be always sincere, in line with the Quran and the Sunnah, in line with the Shara, in line with the law, and these will be entered into the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be admitted into His mercy, into God's mercy. In fact, there is a hadith, a sound tradition, sahih, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to paradise, "You are my mercy, anta rahmati arham biki man asha." You are my mercy. With you I am merciful to whomever I will. This is the absolute triumph. This is the mubin, clear, obvious. Anything else is not. وأما الذين كفروا أفلم تكن آياتي تتلى عليكم فاستكبرتم وَكُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ. And as for those who disbelieved, they will be told, were my revelations not recited to you, yet you acted arrogantly and were a wicked people. Of course, the message was out there. They did hear the message, but they have closed their ears. If they could not cover their ears, they definitely blocked their hearts from responding positively. So they did listen, or they here we have it's basically reprimanding the kuffar, the non-believers. They will be asked on the day of judgment about their reaction. It has been there's a sound tradition in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to some of his servants on the day of judgment, really reprimanding them, shaming them for their reaction despite all the gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will say, Alam uzawjuk, didn't I basically provide you with a spouse? So the peace, the tranquility, the sakina of the family. Alam ukrimu, didn't I honor you? Haven't I been generous to you? ألم أسخر الخيل والإبل وأذرك ترأس وتربى. Didn't I subject to you the horses and the camels, and I let you preside over things? Then the non-believer will respond, will say, yes, my Lord. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask him, did you believe that you will be returned to me, that you will face me? He will say no. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to him, today I will forget you the way you have forgotten me. And that's basically وَقِيلَ الْيَوْمَ نَنْسَاكُمْ كَمَا نَسِيتُمْ لِقَاءَ يَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا وَمَأْوَاكُمْ النَّارُ وَمَا لَكُمْ مِنْ نَاصِرِينَ. Verse 34. It will be said, this day we will neglect you as you neglecting the meeting of this day of yours. Your home will be the fire, and you will have no helpers. Earlier, verse 32, it says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ إِنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَالسَّاعَةُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا قُلْتُمْ مَا نَدْرِي مَا السَّاعَةُ إِنْ نَظُنُّ إِلَّا ظَنًّا وَمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَيْقِنِينَ. And whenever it was said to you, surely Allah's promise of judgment is true, and there is no doubt about the hour. You said mockingly, we do not know what the hour is. We think it is no more than speculation, and we are not convinced that it will never come. وَبَدَلَهُمْ سَيِّئَاتُ مَا عَمِلُوا وَحَاقَ بِهِم مَا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. And the evil consequences of their deeds will unfold before them, and they will be overwhelmed by what they used to ridicule. What do they ridicule? Notice that they don't discuss anything like in the news. Those politicians who try to build their constituency based on Islamophobic attacks on Muslims, but it's almost 100% attacks on an appearance, for example. And the appearance here is the hijab, for example, as they call it. The popular use of the word hijab in the media, even amongst Muslims, that's not the strict legal concept. Hijab is when a woman is covered head to toe 100%, but in general, people use it for the head cover. So even that much, anything, as a French, it seems that it's a French member of the parliament who refuses this attack on Muslims about the hijab, about the fasting of those who are younger than 16 years old. How you are going to test that? How are they going to find out whether someone, are they going to force kids going to school to drink or eat right at the entrance of the school in Ramadan? What is this like inquisition? And he said, if a woman says that I'm covering my hair because of rain or whatever, it is cold. In fact, I was one day in Chicago, been there quite a few times, and it was early morning in the dining room of the hotel, and I was sitting. It was like you have these large glass windows. In fact, it's wall to wall, and you could see people outside. It was really in the coldest month of the year, I think, if I remember. It was freezing outside. All women outside were covering their hair. All women outside were covering. Of course, all men were covering their hair. They were covering their head because it was extremely cold. Are you going to pass a law that will have such details that if a woman covers her hair or her head during cold season, it's okay? But they do not discuss anything serious. All of this is serious, of course. All of this is serious. What I'm talking about, they don't discuss any theological issue. They don't. It's easy. They use the easy targets, let's say. And of course, the litmus became today whether one is in the language of today, of course, whether one is anti-Semitic or not. Though Arabs are Semites, absolutely, yes. But the meaning of anti-Semite is whether one is critical of Israel or not. So you can be critical of the United States, you can be critical of France, Britain, Germany, Holland, you can be critical of any country in the world, but except for one. ذلك بأنكم اتخذتم آيات الله هزوا وغرتكم الحياة الدنيا فاليوم لا يخرجون منها ولهم يستعتبون. This is because you made a mockery of Allah's revelations and were deluded by your worldly life. So from that day on, they will not be taken out of the fire, nor will they be allowed to appease their Lord. That's it. فَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدُ رَبِّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَرَبِّ الْأَرْضِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So all praise is for Allah, Lord of the heavens and Lord of the earth, Lord of all worlds, Lord of all. وَلَهُ الْكِبْرِيَاءُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. To him belongs all majesty in the heavens and the earth, and he is the Almighty, all-wise. Al-Kibriya, as in the Hadith, it's also a sound tradition. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is also narrated by Imam Muslim, he said that the majesty is my garment. And here we have two things, majesty and glory, magnificence, grandeur, all these, they belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the notion of garment or cloak is of course metaphorical. But for those people, they cannot compete. They should not compete. So to him belongs all majesty, meaning not to people. Greatness, there is no modesty. They are not humble, those who think of themselves. I think this was the problem with the Pharaoh, an inflated ego to the degree that he saw himself above all people and ultimately divinizing himself. He is God to those people. So those who compete, those who with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is absolutely scary for those people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns that the hellfire will be their abode. He will house them in his fire. أسكنته ناري فمن نازعني واحد منهم أسكنته ناري. In the next session, inshallah, we'll begin with Surah Al-Ahqaf. It's also from the Al-Hamim, the Hawamim. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.